Hello, welcome back to my channel. My name is Chaz Kayato, and the topic of today's discussion is going to be teacher job growth and prospects in 2026. So as of right now, it's the spring of 2026, so this is the time of year where teachers are being hired, retained, etc. At their respective institutions or the ones that they're trying to go work at. And so this is a really pertinent topic to educators right now. So a lot of the information that I have in today's video comes from EdSurge, an article on EdSurge that's talking about the future of jobs in education. But first I wanted to start off with noting an article from the National Association of Colleges and Employers. NACE gives the job market basically the worst rating since 2021. And so first let me say this is not that is not only education. This is a general observation, and it deals with how people believe or how people feel about the job market in terms of do they believe that the job market is getting better? Do they believe it's easier to get a job? Do they believe that there's jobs available? And so according to the National Association of Colleges and Employers, people generally believe in 2026 that this is the worst year since the pandemic in terms of job prospects. So that just kind of sets the stage, but that doesn't necessarily mean education in general. We've talked in previous videos about some issues and trends in education, and so we know that there are concerns with budgets. We know that there's concerns with changing demographics. We've talked about the demographic cliff in terms of students in previous videos. So there's a lot of factors going on in education. The economy can also certainly affect private schools and the ability for parents to pay for tuition. So that kind of brings in a whole new can of worms if you are a teacher in the private realm versus ones in the public realm, although budgets generally will be an issue regardless of where you are. So now going back to the article on EdSurge, so there is definitely a contrast between these shrinking budgets that I've just mentioned and the growing needs of schools. So there are a particular number of jobs that will most likely see an increase in needs in the near future, such as school therapy positions, special education positions, and student support roles. And these are three that are projected to grow in the next decade in terms of numbers of required or the amount that EdSurge sees will be required in the future. So now contrast that with the shrinking budgets. If you have increased needs for specialized services in education, well, generally specialized services are going to cost you more in terms of the amount that it will cost for the human capital. That's going to cost more than just an average general teacher, right? The more you get specialized. So how do schools overcome the need for more specialized teachers that will cost more when they're seeing their budget shrink at the same time? This is one of those issues that schools and districts are going to have to prepare for in the near future. Actually, there will be a projected, and I believe it's due to this, an increase in short-term subs, which will grow in demand. And I think that that's how many school districts are going to have to try to bridge the gap. So for instance, the school district near where I live, the cost of a short-term sub versus the cost of a full-time teacher, it's about like 1 to 3. So literally, a third. A short-term sub will be a third of what it will cost to put a certified long-term teacher in the classroom. And I'm not saying that school districts are going to plan on just sticking a bunch of short-term teachers and rotating them as much as possible in order to keep costs down. But if you are a district administrator and you're working with a limited budget, you're probably going to be looking at every single option you have available in order to make the finances work, right? So, yeah, according to this article, short-term subs will be a position that will probably increase significantly over the next decade. Another section of the education sphere that is really struggling right now, and will most likely continue to struggle, is the lower level education positions. So we're talking about your pre-K, kindergarten, elementary, these daycare especially. These types of positions tend to attract people that don't have degrees just yet, or are working towards degrees, or are willing to take positions that pay less than other jobs in education. And so you might imagine, we talked about in a previous video, the amount of burnout that that you might have. Well, if you're getting paid, basically the same as an entry-level position in another career path that might not be nearly as stressful, people will often choose to leave that profession after a short amount of time. And this is why, just in my personal experience of looking at careers at different educational institutions locally, almost universally, almost every single school that has K through 12 education, they're the ones that need the most help, especially at the lower levels, because you just rotate through these teachers and these paraprofessionals so much more often than you would teachers maybe at the middle school, junior high, or high school level, because the workload is high, the stress is high, and the pay is low. So this is going to be a career path that there's not necessarily any way to deal with this just yet, because of the fact that, and as we've discussed before, the shrinking budget. So how do we attract better teachers? How do we attract more teachers to stay at the lower levels if our budgets don't allow us to pay more for those positions? And so this is something that's going to need attention sooner rather than later, because we're losing a lot. We're losing a lot of teachers at those lower levels. So so overall, generally, the teaching profession is not, it's pretty static right now in terms of it's not increasing too much, it's not declining too much, mostly because of that fine line between you need teachers, so teachers have to exist, but the budget constraints of many schools don't allow for new positions to open as often. Just anecdotally, a friend of mine who's a teacher, we were talking about openings at his school, and it's a very big school, and last year I had noted that there was only like 2 or 3 positions that had come open, and I said, that's pretty surprising for a school your size, for there only to be 3 teachers leaving. And more or less he said, no, it's not that only 3 teachers are leaving, they're just going to spread out what's left to more teachers. Once again, those budget constraints are putting more on the plates of teachers that are currently already at the school. So you can imagine, especially at the lower levels, if you already have high stress levels, if the workload's already pretty high, and you're having to spread out the work to even fewer people, it's not a very It's a very challenging environment. So that's the job growth and prospects for 2026. It is something I just want to say as well, because I don't want to sound like I don't want the video to sound too negative. We do need more young people entering into the field, especially to take over for the generation that is soon to retire or is just now retiring. So there are jobs available, but at the same time, there may not be as many jobs as you think, just because of the fact that budget constraints are really putting stress on the system. So right now, it's at a very tense balance, but hopefully in the near future, the budget issues can be dealt with, and more teachers can be brought into the classroom. If you have any comments, or if you feel like your situation doesn't reflect the information that I have here, please comment below and we'll start a conversation about it. Thank you.